Welcome to Saturday versus Sunday. I'm Jeff Dover. With me is John Barbin. Let's talk football.
All right, we're talking the Notre Dame Georgia game, the Rose Bowl that got
Sugar
postponed
Bowl.
for a day. Sorry, Sugar Bowl. Yeah, I'm just making stuff up. I wish they played that in the Rose Bowl for no other reason than it just looks really good. Okay. So what did you think of this game?
Well, it was a bit of a rock fight. It pretty much played out how we thought it would, which is, two good defenses. Who was going to be able to move it a bit more on offense, I thought was going to be the difference. But really, for me, it was just a turnover in special teams, which really dictated the game. Georgia held Notre Dame to essentially 9 points.
Yeah.
But it was the kick return for a touchdown and then the turnover literally right in front of the goal line. If Stockton's hand is coming a little bit forward, that's just an incomplete pass as opposed to a fumble.
Game of inches, Dover.
Fumbled it right there within, first and goal. And so that, because when you look at the box score, like Notre Dame didn't do much on offense.
No,
not
at all.
Those were the two things that really turned it. Otherwise it really went the way we thought it would.
Yeah, we figured it would be a rock fight. We figured it would be low scoring. We figured the defenses were going to dominate the game, which they did. Yep. The offenses were limited, and they proved that they're limited. There wasn't really much going on offense on either team. But the crazy thing was what was it? In 54 seconds, Notre Dame scored 17 points.
Yeah.
So it was the field goal, then the immediate turnover at the end of the first half, and that was a 13-yard drive, just 13 yards to score a touchdown.
Yep.
And then the opening the second half with a kick return for a touchdown. I thought right then this game's likely over, just because Georgia showed no real ability to move the ball. I thought Gunnar Stockton looked good.
That's on my notes here. I said not Stockton's fault.
Not Stockton's fault at all. 20 for 32, 234, a TD, no picks. He was under fire a lot of the game, but he looked cool and he threw some dimes.
Yeah.
And if this team could catch a goddamn ball, I mean, Georgia fans, you must just be so upset about how bad the receiving group is here. Now, Arian Smith actually caught some. I thought it would be him who would be the culprit, but it wasn't him. I guess it was Dylan Bell. My God,
I know.
I mean, this could have been a 400-yard performance by Stockton if these guys could catch a ball.
Even Smith, when he made the catch, because the commentators made a point about that, saying he had a problem with drive. When he caught the ball and when he was going into the end zone, he was still, toward the end zone, he was still not holding it well. It still didn't look like he had a good grip on it. It's clear that
let's at least give him flowers for catching the ball. That was a step. That's a step up for him.
Absolutely.
But then Dylan Bell was like, okay, if you're going to catch them, I'll just drop them.
Yeah, no,
it's just so strange for this team of all teams to have a ball dropping problem with the receivers.
Yeah.
I just never, they don't, I mean, I guess traditionally you don't view them as like an Ohio State type of team that has 4 first round draft pick type receivers all the time. But in my memory, Georgia always has at least one who's an overwhelming talent, like George Pickens.
Yep.
There's always one on the team that's really good. And I mean, in the last couple of years, they had 2 overwhelming talents, Bowers and Ladd McConkey. And well, I guess Pickens was in there too. And then before that, there's always somebody on this team who's really, really good, like a first or second round NFL caliber receiver. And now it's just so apparent they're missing Bowers and missing McConkey and missing those sure-handed receivers. I almost feel like receivers that just catch everything that comes their way, you only notice it when they stop doing it.
Yeah.
Or when you don't have that guy. And it hits the wide open, right in the hands, drops it. It's not like it's a contested catch. And you're thinking, so what can we, that's a perfect play. The guy's open. The ball is delivered on time. Everything worked, but you have to catch it. There's nothing in the game plan for not catching the ball when you're open.
No. And it's an absolute killer because it feels like a turnover. Because you were going to get 15 yards or 20 yards or something, and then you don't. And then all of a sudden it's 3rd and long or it really changes how it goes. And to your point about that, these receivers like Bell physically look amazing, big, strong, fast, but you got to catch the ball. You're absolutely right. You got it. It's the number one thing. And it's just heartbreaking when it doesn't happen. The other note I had here was that Notre Dame stopped Georgia's running game.
Yes.
And that hurt because it's you didn't want to have to put too much on Stockton, but like we said, I thought he played well. He was not the reason why this didn't work out. But Georgia could not. They had 62 yards rushing, but that's with the minus 23 because Stockton got sacked 4 times.
Yeah.
But if they had any semblance of a run game, then that would have really changed things for the passing. But all credit to Notre Dame's defense. We knew their defense was good going in, and they were able to stop Georgia's running game. So that to me was another one of the keys for the game.
This wasn't a clean game by Notre Dame by any means either. They had 10 penalties for 75 yards. That's not good. The other glaring thing in this game that completely shocked me was the fake punt, then go for it on 4th down, and somehow he caught Kirby just not understanding what to do there.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to stop short of saying that. There was no need for Kirby to run his team onto the field with any degree of urgency. He could have just meandered onto the field. And the announcer's like, didn't he watch the Illinois game? Well, he could have taken all the time he wanted in the world and forced Freeman into a delay of game or taking a timeout, and then that would have just been a punt. As it was happening, I'm like, I cannot believe this is actually happening right now. Kirby is falling for this, and he doesn't have to do this. Like, he doesn't actually have to get his team on the field with any urgency at all. And instead, he sprinted his team onto the field. They clearly seemed to be at least somewhat flustered by it. And then they fell for the cadence and went offside. Yeah. And that essentially sealed the game. And I actually thought for a second, that can't possibly be what just happened. There's no way Freeman just got that over on Smart.
Yeah, I had a different reaction. I thought that when Notre Dame ran the team out there, and then Georgia, I thought were really well coached because he just made one signal, and then everyone, like the entire defense, ran out there again with a lot of time left on the play clock. And my thought was, good for them, good for not doing the Illinois thing. Like, this is not, you're not supposed to get a first down or a stop because of that bullshit rule that we've talked about.
Okay, so you're saying he did this? Yeah,
I think he did the professional thing.
He did the sportsman-like thing.
They were well coached.
Mm-hmm.
He was ready for that. As soon as Notre Dame, they ran their team on, he made one signal, and the whole defense was ready to go. Mm-hmm. There wasn't like, am I going? Are you going? Everyone knew who they were supposed to go. Now, what I will concede is that running out there with 10 seconds to go and then the hard count and stopping yourself from going offside in the hard count is difficult, which is why I think that happened. So credit to Notre Dame for doing it like that. But I was really happy that Georgia didn't use that as a reason for doing it. But now, did it cost them the end? I mean, but at least
it for sure.
I would have been more upset.
It killed an opportunity to come back as
well. Yeah, true. But that's, doing it the Bielema way is not the way to do it.
All right. So there's 2 readings. I like what you said. And you and I both have been saying, don't do that. Don't just use a loophole in the rules to try to manipulate the game. So he did the stand-up sportsman-like thing is, okay, you're going to change. I'm going to change. We're actually going to play football. I'm not going to slow my guys down to manipulate the clock such that you get stuck taking a timeout or having to use or getting a delay of game. So good. Yeah, you're right. Good for Smart for doing the sportsman-like thing there and just shifting his players.
And it's not just the sportsman-like. It was well coached. Like, they were ready for that. It reminds me of the TCU thing.
The fire drill.
Yeah, when they're like, oh, there's hardly any time left. And he's like, we practiced that. Like, we are ready to go. Like, when you're watching it as a fan, you're like, oh my God, this is nuts. They're running around with their heads cut off. But it's not. Like, and that's what it looked like for the Georgia response too. Like, it looked like they were prepared, which is good coaching, that's what it should be.
Yeah, and I don't know if on the broadcast they were showing Smart you could read his lips. He's saying they can't do that. So there's something, at least as far as he was concerned, when his team was getting called for the offside there, it seemed as though Smart thought something Notre Dame did in that sequence was actually against the rules. And now, did you hear the broadcast explain what they thought he was thinking there? Or no,
in real time, I thought it was because Riley bobbed his head with the hard count. So I thought it was that, but I might have been wrong.
Well, whatever it was, and he looked pretty calm and confident that, no, Notre Dame actually did something. Like, there was something they did. They committed the penalty, not us. But then when he got called for the offside, he wasn't like enraged. So maybe he was like, hopefully I can convince them they did something wrong. But in general, my guys jumped offside and they just, I mean, on the same note of you saying how well coached they were to get on the field, it's pretty undisciplined to jump offside there. Like, what are you doing? What are you?
True.
Just look at the ball.
No, I know.
You don't go till the ball goes. That's it. Just don't go till the ball goes.
I get that, but they also understand the situation is like, if we get a stop here, we have a chance to, like, this. We need this stop in order to get the game. And
I would be surprised if he didn't coach them saying they're not snapping this ball. They're just trying to induce you.
Yeah,
to jump offside. That's all that's happening here. They're really not going for this. So, anyways, that stuck out in my mind, and the kick return. Like, you just cannot. First of all, there's nothing in the game plan for dropping passes, wide open passes.
Yeah.
There's nothing in the game plan for being drawn offside when you've stopped them and it's a fourth down. Like, you just don't plan for getting caught on that. Right. And Georgia played a clean game. They only had 5 penalties for 36 yards. They really didn't they didn't get in their own way. Let's say it that way.
Yeah.
The 2 fumbles were killers.
Yes.
That was just killers. It really hurts when your running back fumbles a ball, because that's supposed to be your sure-handed player. Yep. And then Stockton, that's a legitimate pass rush he's up against. It's reasonable that once or twice this game, they were going to get to him and might get their hands on the ball.
My last 2 notes was the left tackle for Georgia had a bad day. Like, their people beat them on that side multiple times. And that's where the fumble came from, the Stockton with the pass rush. That's where some of the sacks came. Like, it was that whenever his number is 57, I think it was, like, could not handle the guy on that side.
No.
So that was a real problem. And the last note that I had was, a lot of this stuff we're putting is like, Georgia couldn't run the ball. Georgia couldn't catch the ball. Georgia had the 2 fumbles, right? But I want to give some flowers to Notre Dame. Like we mentioned before, their defense was amazing. It really contained Georgia's run game. But also Riley Leonard ran for 80 yards. I feel like that's really the only difference, the positive thing that Notre Dame did, because he was 15 for 24 for 90 yards was nothing to, like, their pass game was limited. But him rushing for 80 yards is really what put him in a position to win this one. So,
I mean, this is not much of an offense to speak of for Notre Dame, and Love getting hurt doesn't help at all. Nope. That's that's probably their best offensive weapon. And they don't have, 90 yards passing. How do you win a game with 150 yards rushing and 90 yards passing? It's the short field. It's the kick return.
That's how that exactly
works. But what I would say is no Notre Dame fan can feel comfortable after that performance. They can feel good about their defense. They cannot feel good at all about their offense going into the rest of the playoffs, thinking that you're not going to keep winning like this. No. You can't rely on.
No, they had 244 yards of offense. So that's not going to win your game most of the time.
Right. And you can't rely on a special teams touchdown as part of how you're going to win a game. You can't rely on getting a turnover and having a 13-yard touchdown drive. Like, none of that is how you plan to win a game. No. It can win a game like it did here, but that's more luck than game planning. Like, no coach is like, okay, so we got to at least get 7 points on special teams this game. Like, that's not a thing. It's a windfall when you get that. Yeah. And what you do with it, if you capitalize on it, which they did here, they held. First of all, Georgia 10 point. You're not winning any game with 10 points. That's not enough, right?
No, but without that short turnover in the run back, then it's like 10-9, which is sort of like, that's,
Well, yeah. Really, this was an even game besides that kick return and then the fumble. The other thing is, with whatever it was, 37 seconds or whatever it was on the field, what's he doing dropping back, throwing passes there?
I know.
Obviously hindsight's 2020. If you just run the ball and you're being conservative, the fans might be like, what are you doing? You got to go for it. And then when you get sacked for a fumble and then an immediate touchdown, it's easy to say you should have just ran the ball.
Right.
So it's,
I don't get too hung up on that because it's the defense is been stopping the run. It feels like a running situation. So if you can get them in a run defense when you have a pass option, that'd be a good option. So
I wonder,
I don't mind that.
It feels different. I guess it feels different that sack resulting in a touchdown happened with less than 40 seconds to go in the first half versus that exact same scenario happening anywhere else in the game.
Yeah.
It feels backbreaking to happen going into the half when really just run the clock out and let's get back out on the field and start over. So again, it's You're right. They had no run game to speak of. Thinking they were running it there is just conceding the half anyways. So if he actually thought they were going to go straight down the field, I guess my other thought is there's no real indication to think they were going down the field and getting a field goal in 35 seconds either.
I felt like that was, but I don't know. I mean, it's to me, it's a quarterfinal game. We're playing to win, and they're gonna and
a field goal to go, and then it's over. Yeah,
a field goal would have made a difference in this, right? So no, I don't have any problem with that. And again, we mentioned this before. If his hand's coming a little bit forward, all of a sudden that's an incomplete pass. That changes everything, right?
It's a game of inches over.
I know. So that's it was, but it's really, again, that was another one where the left tackle just didn't stop the guy. So, and he came in way too fast. So it was, yeah.
So I mean, it was good defenses, limited offenses, exactly what we thought. And the difference was, it was a few plays, and that major special teams play kind of disrupted the whole game. And there's always a penalty here or there that people are going to really just, it's going to kill them. That, if it wasn't for now, that guy on the sidelines.
Judging by our comments, you're right about that. People were really upset about the targeting thing.
That walk-on kid, who I'm sure is not on the team anymore by today. What the hell? What in the hell?
Yeah,
he's got to feel like the loneliest guy in Georgia right now.
Yeah,
because they lost, and that could
bump into the ref. Like you can't do that. You can't.
I kind of feel sorry for him, but he's an idiot.
No, you can't do it. Like it's the white. Everyone knows that you can't be in the white. It's
because they were first and goal after that, right?
Oh, it was
somewhere. He made it down close to the 10-yard line.
From like they're probably not going to be anywhere close to now they're within the red zone at least. So yeah, that was terrible.
And on a day where Georgia was struggling to run the ball, taking 15 yards away from them.
Yeah.
Like maybe if that was, I think he was somewhere, I think he might have actually been inside the 10, if not right around the 10. Either way, if they were first and 10 from the 11 or first and goal from the 10 or the 9, the way they were running the ball or their inability to run the ball, that's a way better spot in a game where points come at a premium for a team that, okay, maybe that run game's just good enough from that distance to run. Plus Stockton's got legs. Like you can, there's more realistic way of them scoring that touchdown that they needed than if they got pushed back 15 yards. We're not talking about Ohio State's offense. So like 10 yards forward, 10 yards back. We're just going all out. It almost doesn't change how they would call it. Whereas here, Georgia really, those 15 yards mattered.
Yeah,
in this game with Georgia's offense as it was functioning, at least on this day, those 15 yards were critical. And that kid, God, that kid's got to feel like an idiot. I can't imagine he's still on the team. If not, I don't know how Smart deals with that, but maybe he just chalks it up to, I mean, no, because how many kids are on the sideline? There's 30 or 40 kids, and he's the only one who made the mistake.
Yeah, no.
So it's not an obvious mistake or a common mistake. He was just completely unaware.
It'd be pretty surprising. It'd be surprising if he's still on the team, because that's with a walk-on or something like that. Like that's exactly the kind of person you could say you make a mistake and you're not on the team. And that's how we do stuff here at Georgia. And it'd be the way to send the message to everyone else that you can't. It's not acceptable. So,
God, what a mistake. All right. Well, this was, it was funny. This was just a characteristic Georgia game. Get down in the first half and try to claw back in the second half. This is what they've been all year.
You've called it. They're a one-half team, and that this game it tended to be the first and fourth quarter, like in that it's just that middle, right around the halftime, right, is where they just lost it for a bit.
17 points in 54 seconds in the game, and that was symbolic of they're too limited on offense to recover from that.
Yeah, and they can't. They need to play a complete game, and they didn't.
And they didn't. And Notre Dame gave them opportunities. Like 10 penalties for 75 yards is allowing the other team in a lot, right?
Yeah.
So the other way to view it is add 75 yards to Georgia's yard total, or however you want to say it.
Yep.
But my God, Georgia's some of those defensive linemen are just outstanding. What's his name? Jordan Walker, number 11.
Yeah.
Every time he was getting into the backfield, I thought, okay, that's the best defensive. That's got to be one of the best defensive players in the country, top 5 at least.
Yeah,
he was. The talent's all there, and okay, so let's talk about Georgia moving forward. The talent on defense is always there on this team. It was there this year. It'll be there next year, and I think the future looks good with Stockton.
Yeah, absolutely. No, like
He's a gamer for sure.
he's a sophomore now, so he'll be a junior next year, and it's as long as he stays, you kind of have to say that now with this day and age with the
Can't
portal.
believe that. Like, I'm
But it's
assuming he's the quarterback in waiting, and now and there was no indication here to say that he shouldn't just be plugged in day one next year.
yeah.
Like
No,
that's your guy, it
hopefully
looks
will
like.
be, and yeah, and it's no, they're gonna be really good next year. Like the Nate Frazier, I think, is a freshman. Yeah, he is. So he's like, no, they're gonna be fine. They need
Yeah.
to people catch the ball better, but other than that, it's
Something.
and some of the
Maybe
linemen, but they can that can change quickly too. So they only need like one or two stud. I guess that sounds like a lot, but you need one other, maybe a stud guard in the transfer portal or something like that, or you hit on a
they probably
5-star.
have 5 stars still in the
I
wings
know. So
waiting.
so just a bit better offensive line, and then this will be listen, they went 11-3, and they were the number 2
Yeah.
ranked team. So
But
they were 11-2 going in this game. So like
right.
they're going to be a 10-win team next year too.
At least the only issue is they can't be this Jekyll and Hyde first half, second
No,
half. They've been the greatest half a game team I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I mean they got to 11-3 playing half a game all year.
Yes.
Imagine if they were just could put a complete game together. I mean, Georgia fans, help me out here. Can you think of a game where you can honestly say they put in a complete 4-quarter game at all at any point this year?
No.
I don't think so.
No.
Now, they put in some unbelievable second halves, like the one against Alabama. They almost came. That's the worst probably example of them getting completely overwhelmed in the first half and completely overwhelming the other team in the second half.
That was the different Jalen Milroe that game too.
Right, exactly.
So going forward, Notre Dame, Penn State. Any initial thoughts?
So that's enough on Georgia. Notre Dame, Penn State. I think Penn State seems to maybe have the advantage here. They have 2 good running backs. We don't know if Jeremiah Love's going to play for Notre Dame. They have Tyler Warren. Notre Dame doesn't necessarily have something that like here we go. X factor. Tyler Warren could be the X factor player in this entire game. Now, we don't know if Abdul Carter is going to play, which is the best defensive player on
He's
Penn
really
State.
good. Yeah. Yeah. So, but I mean, in terms of, let's put it this way. If you're Penn State, who would you rather play? Ohio State, Texas, or Notre Dame?
Notre Dame.
Yeah, like by far, right?
By a mile. By a mile.
So because that's their running and defense, and it's not a super dynamic offense, right? So that's a good matchup for Penn State. It's a good matchup for Notre Dame. I think that's and then Ohio State, Texas seems to be like what the national championship should be. So, but it's
if there is an X factor on Penn State, I say it's Tyler Warren. Do you think it's somebody? Okay.
No.
So how about this? If there is an X factor on Notre Dame, who is it?
Riley Leonard.
Yeah, 100%.
Because if he throws for over 200 yards, if he can have a bit better passing game, then their running game with the running backs and with him all of a sudden changes things, right? But unless the threat of the pass is there, it's going to be too difficult.
Yeah. Now Jeremiah Love coming back would really even this thing out a bit. That matters because that gives them a 2-headed running back presence the same way Penn State has, but their Penn State running backs are healthy. Abdul Carter coming back is a big deal, whether or not he's healthy. As of recording, we don't know yet.
No.
But Notre Dame's also missing a couple of key defensive pieces. Yep. So they theoretically
didn't seem to slow them down against Georgia.
Not really. So theoretically, these two teams could show up sort of evenly missing things, I guess you could say, or show up could be unbalanced depending if one team gets a star back that the other team didn't. So we can't right now say what it's going to look like as far as having all of your best players on the field. But how about this? If they both show up, everyone's back, like defensive players, offensive players, everyone's there at full strength, and they both play their A game, who wins?
I think it's Penn State. I just think they have a slightly better passing game than Notre Dame does. So, because I feel like the running game and the defense are pretty even between the two.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and I think that's it. Do you see a blowout either direction?
No, and it mostly because of both teams. I don't think are. I don't want to say not capable of a blowout, but like that's not the type of game they play. So
no, the defenses are good enough here.
Yep, and it decreases the number of possessions. You run the ball.
I think these are national championship level defenses on both sides of the ball.
Yes, I'll give you that.
Yeah, and neither of them have been really Besides the Penn State game against Oregon, which was an oddity, Penn State generally keeps everybody close in a lower scoring game. Notre Dame plays that way all the time. They didn't. I mean, if they've scored a lot, it's because they've overwhelmed the team with interceptions, pick sixes, like all of that sort of stuff. It's not like they just explode for 50 points on offense. Well, I guess against something like Army, a team that just is completely undermanned. But against this level of competition, I can only see Notre Dame games going like what just happened here, like something really, really low scoring in a total rock fight, which Penn State's perfectly happy to play.
So I don't know if we're going to have a preview show because the games are like next Thursday or next Friday. So maybe we'll do a pick show before that. But just right now, Notre Dame is favored 1.5 over Penn State, which is interesting. And then
favored. I'll take Penn State plus the points.
Probably. And then Ohio State, Texas. Ohio State opened at like 3.5 or something like that, and it's up to 6. So I think that's what people are really listening to the Barb recency bias, and because they looked unstoppable against Oregon.
That's two in a row now. So
yeah,
it's not necessarily that's two. Is at least the start of a trend.
It's not a goldfish. It's 2 goldfishes next to each other. They can with the 2 games.
All right, you want to do that? Do a pick show next?
Yeah, sure. Why not? We can do it next Wednesday or something.
All right. Okay, so I mean, do you have any other closing thoughts here? I think that's
that was good. It was good. It was a good game. It was, even though it was a bit of a rock fight, it was still an entertaining game. So
yeah, and that's the other thing. You could tell there was NFL level talent all over that field on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, good point.
And so yeah, not a lot of scoring, but that's a really entertaining 23-10 game.
Yes.
Probably for everyone except Georgia fans. I know it's not what you wanted, but you know your team's going to be there next year too.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Okay, so come back to the channel for our picks and previews show. We'll catch you later.